Good evening, manifestors. If you've tried to activate your pineal gland, done meditation, drank this tea, that tea, and still nothing changed in your life, this video is for you. Because you were taught to look for a hidden key, a magic button you need to press. And the problem isn't that there's something wrong with you. The problem is that this never worked for anyone. In this video, you're going to understand what really changes your perception of reality. And it has nothing to do with spiritual portals. You're going to discover why most people only get frustration and what actually needs to change. I fell for this too. Lost time, money, and hope thinking that activating the pineal was enough. Result? Zero. Nothing changed. Until I understood, the problem wasn't the gland, it was where I was putting my attention all day long. And there's a very specific mistake on this subject that almost everyone makes. When you understand this mistake, things really change. So if you want to understand in a logical and practical way what really alters your perception, stick with me until the end. But before we get into that, let me ask you something quick. Subscribe to the channel because here I bring content about manifestation without all that empty talk. It's all based on logic, on how things actually work. And hit the like button because that helps this type of content reach more people who are also tired of looking for magic buttons and want to truly understand how to change their perception of reality. Done. Let's get to what matters. You've probably heard about the pineal gland, right? That story that it's like a third eye, a spiritual portal we have in the middle of our brain. And if you can activate it, everything changes. The promise is seductive. Activate the pineal and you start seeing reality differently. You attract money. You have incredible insights. You awaken spiritually. Your intuition gets sharp. And then, finally, you can manifest what you always wanted. And this makes sense, doesn't it? Because everyone talks about it. There are videos teaching secret techniques to activate it. People selling supplements that decalcify the gland. Specific guided meditations. Rituals with sound frequencies. Everything. And the narrative is well constructed. They say the pineal is the seat of the soul, that it's the bridge between the physical and spiritual, that ancient philosophers already knew this, that there's hidden knowledge about it that was concealed from humanity. You see all that and think, this is what's missing in me. I just need to activate this and my life will turn around. I thought the same way. For a long time I believed there was a hidden point in my brain that, if I could unlock it, would change everything at once. And honestly, that made total sense to me. Because the logic seems perfect. If the pineal is responsible for expanded perception, and if it's blocked by my routine, diet, lifestyle, then just unblock it, right? But there's a problem with this whole story. Actually, there are 3 problems. And the third one is what's really keeping you stuck. The first problem is that the story of the pineal gland as a spiritual portal is incomplete. And when I discovered this, it bothered me because everything I was doing was based on a version that ignored the most important part. Look, the pineal gland really exists. It's real. And it has a confirmed biological function by science. It produces melatonin, which is the hormone that regulates your sleep. That's what synchronizes your biological clock with environmental light. Sleep-wake cycle, circadian rhythm, immune functions, all of this is real. But it's not a spiritual switch. There's no solid scientific evidence that it opens portals of consciousness or that it works like a button you press and your perception changes instantly. This third eye talk comes more from philosophy and esotericism than from neuroscience. Descartes talked about it. Mystical schools built narratives around it. But biologically, it doesn't work that way. And then you keep trying to activate something that's already working perfectly at the hormonal level, but you keep seeing the same reality as always. Why? Because the problem isn't in the gland. The problem is in how your brain constructs the perception of reality. And nobody talks about this part. Nobody explains that your perception doesn't depend on activating a hidden point. It depends on where you put your attention, on the mental pattern you repeat, on the filters you use to interpret what happens. And when you ignore this and keep looking for the magic button, you stay in the same place. Because you're trying to solve it in the wrong place. But this still isn't the worst part. The second problem is deeper and explains why so many people try and fail. The second problem is that the hidden button narrative isn't just incomplete, it's wrong. And when I realized this, I had to rethink everything I was doing. Because the idea of activating the pineal gland treats perception like it's a video game. Like there's a magic hack you apply and boom, your reality changes instantly, but the brain doesn't work that way. The perception of reality isn't a switch you flip, it's a mental construction. Your brain filters what you see based on what you've already lived. It interprets based on what you expect to happen. It fills gaps based on the pattern you repeat. And here's the problem. You're waiting for a click, a sensation, a moment of revelation. You think you'll wake up one day, feel the pineal activated, and suddenly see opportunities, attract money, have total clarity. But while you're looking for that magic button, what really constructs your perception, the attention you put on things, the mental pattern you repeat on autopilot stays the same. I spent months doing this, looking for the hack, waiting for the click, and my reality stayed the same. Because I was trying to change in the wrong place. I was looking for a switch that doesn't exist, while the real system, the way my brain was functioning every day, remained untouched. And this is where it gets serious, because when you understand there's no button, you realize that everything you were taught about this was based on a false premise. And now comes the worst part. The third problem is what's really keeping you stuck. The third problem, and this is what really bothered me when I realized it, is that this belief in the hidden button isn't harmless. It's actively hurting you. And it's not minor. It's concrete, measurable. And the longer you stay in this, the worse it gets. Because when you believe there's a secret point that needs to be activated, you create a dependency on external solutions. You start looking for supplements that promise to decalcify the pineal. Specific rituals, exclusive guided meditations, special sound frequencies, secret techniques that someone discovered and is selling for $97, $197, $497. And you buy it because you believe that's going to be the missing click. And when it doesn't work, you don't question the narrative. You question yourself. You think you failed, that you didn't do it right, that you're not special enough, that maybe you don't have the gift, that you need another course, another technique, another secret. And then comes chronic frustration. You've already spent money on this, already lost time, already felt that feeling of, why doesn't it work for me? And the worst part, while you're looking for the magic button, your attention stays in the same place as always. You stay on autopilot. Keep repeating the same mental patterns. Keep interpreting reality the same way. And that's what keeps your life the same. Because the real problem, the way your brain is constructing perception every day, was never touched. It's still there, working the same way, while you waste energy looking for a switch that doesn't exist. And the more you look for the button, the further you get from real change, because you outsourced it. You put the responsibility for your change on something external, on a gland, on a ritual, on a secret technique. And while you wait for something from the outside to do the internal work, nothing changes. This isn't just an information error, it's a vicious cycle that keeps you stuck. And when I saw the real impact of this in my life, the money lost, the time wasted, the accumulated frustration, I understood I couldn't ignore it. But then, if it's not activating the pineal, what is it? What really changes perception? I'm going to answer that in just a second. But first, let me show you something. Because understanding the problem is one step. But knowing how to dismantle these mental patterns that keep you trapped, how to stop looking for the magic button and start working on what really changes, that's another story. And this is exactly what changed the game for me. I found an ebook that works specifically on unlocking the mental patterns that keep you financially stuck. It doesn't sell promises of magic activation, secret rituals, or miracle techniques. It shows you how you fell into this cycle of frustration, looking for the button while the mental pattern that constructs your reality remains untouched, and teaches you, step by step, how to really change this. This is what got me out of autopilot. This is what made me stop wasting energy looking outside and start working from within. And if you identified with what I've said so far, if you've already tried to change, already spent money on this and still have no results, this is the moment to stop repeating the cycle. The link is in the description and pinned comment. Take a look and see if it makes sense for you. Now, back to it. What really changes perception? The truth is that the perception of reality doesn't come from any hidden button. It's a mental construction. And when I understood this, it was like starting over. For the first time, it made real sense. Because your brain doesn't capture reality as it is. It doesn't work like a camera that records everything objectively. What you see as reality is the result of a filter that your brain builds based on what you've already lived, what you expect, what you feel, and mainly, what you pay attention to. And here's the point. This filter isn't fixed. It reconstructs itself all the time. Every moment, every thought, every time you direct your attention somewhere. If you always put attention on the same patterns, the same worries, the same fears, the same interpretations, the filter keeps building the same perception. And you keep seeing the same reality. But if you change where you put attention, the filter changes. And when the filter changes, what you can see changes with it. It's not magic. It's how the brain works. You're not stuck because something's missing in you. You're stuck because the filter that constructs your perception is operating on autopilot. And nobody taught you that you can change this. I spent years thinking I needed to activate something, when in reality I just needed to stop leaving my attention on automatic. And when you understand this, the right approach becomes obvious. The right approach has 3 pillars. And when I traded the search for the magic button for these 3 pillars, that's when I really started moving forward. The first is controlling where you put your attention. Because if the filter that constructs your perception depends on where you put attention, then whoever decides where the focus goes controls what they see. The problem is that most people never decide. Attention goes on autopilot and always returns to the same place. The second pillar is reducing mental noise. There's no point trying to control attention if your mind is flooded with stimuli all the time. Screens, notifications, constant worry. You need mental space. Without it, the brain only reacts, never processes. And the third is changing the interpretation pattern. Because it's not just where you look, it's what you do with what you see. If you keep interpreting everything through the same lens, nothing works out for me, I can't do it, the pattern repeats. But when you realize that's a pattern, not an absolute truth, you start to dismantle it, and that's it. The difference between who changes and who stays stuck isn't who has the most activated pineal. It's who works these 3 pillars every day, even if just for 5 minutes. It's not a ritual, it's not a secret technique, it's not a supplement, it's training, it's repetition, it's daily construction. And when I stopped waiting for the click and started training these 3 points, I stopped being stuck in the same interpretation of things. It started to change. But how does this work in practice? Let me show you. First, controlling attention. 5 to 10 minutes a day. That's it. You sit, focus on your breath, and when you notice your mind wandered, and it will wander, you bring the focus back to your breath. Again and again. Seems simple, and it is. But what this does is train your brain to choose where attention stays, instead of being dragged by automatic thinking. Because before, you let your mind go on autopilot all day long. Now you're training the muscle of deciding where focus goes. And you don't need 2 hours of meditation. You need 5 minutes of real attention every day. That's what builds control. Second, reducing noise. Start with the basics. Limit screens, turn off notifications, create pauses without distraction, shower without phone, walk without headphones, breakfast without scrolling. Seems like a little, but it's in these moments that the brain processes. It's where mental noise lowers. Because if you spend all day flooded with stimuli, your attention never stays quiet long enough for you to decide where it goes. You just react. so you create space. And in that space, control returns. Third, changing interpretation. When a negative thought comes, and it will come, you write it down. I'm interpreting the situation like this. Write the thought. And then you write. But there are other ways to interpret this. You don't need to believe the new interpretation yet. You just need to recognize that the previous interpretation isn't absolute truth. It's a pattern. And when you do this repeatedly, the brain starts to release the rigidity. It starts to realize the filter can change. And that's it. It's not complicated. It's not a secret technique. It's training. It's daily repetition. But let me show you how this really changes perception with real examples. Let me give you 2 concrete examples of how this works. First, attention on autopilot. I saw this happen up close. A person who spent all day with attention trapped in worry, woke up thinking about bills, had lunch thinking about problems, went to sleep thinking about debt, and she swore there was no opportunity, that her reality was closed. Then she started training attention. 5 minutes a day. Focus on breath. When the mind went to worry, back to breath. The first few weeks, nothing. She stayed in the same pattern. The mind kept going back to automatic, but she kept the training. And after about 3 weeks, she started noticing something different. She realized that a skill she used at work, organizing financial spreadsheets, could become a freelance service. It was always there. But her attention never stayed out of worry long enough to notice. Reality didn't change. What changed was where she put attention, and that changed what she could see. Second, constant mental noise. Another case, someone who consumed addictive content 24/7, woke up scrolling, worked with a podcast in the background, went to sleep watching videos, 0 mental clarity, 0 space to process. The brain just reacted. She created pauses without screens, shower without phone, 10-minute walk without headphones, breakfast without scrolling. And in less than a week, something started happening. She managed to finish an important conversation without her mind dispersing to the next notification. She could sit and plan the week without anxiety about grabbing her phone. It wasn't complete transformation. She still relapsed several times. But clarity started appearing in the spaces she created. And it was in these spaces that she noticed a pattern. She was spending more money on delivery than she would save if she cooked twice a week. Seems obvious. But in the middle of constant mental noise, she had never connected the dots. These changes weren't instant. It was gradual. It was training. But it worked. Because the approach isn't magic. It's cerebral. It's daily repetition. But there are some things you need to be careful about, because if you do it the wrong way, you'll fall into the same trap as before. Now, I'd be dishonest if I didn't tell you some things that most people ignore. First caution, don't turn this into a new magic ritual, because it's very easy to take what I just showed you and turn it into, now I'm going to meditate to activate attention. I'm going to do the right technique to unlock the brain. No. This isn't a ritual. It's training. The difference is that you do a ritual expecting a magic result. You do training knowing you'll build a skill through repetition. If you trade activate the pineal for activate attention and keep waiting for the click, you just change the name of the illusion. Second caution, don't expect instant results. In the examples I gave you, changes started in weeks, not hours, not days. And even when results started appearing, it wasn't complete transformation. It was gradual. It was cumulative. If you train attention for 3 days and think it didn't work, you'll quit before seeing anything change. And then you'll go back to looking for the magic button again. Real change is slow, and whoever promises quick results is selling you the same illusion that kept you stuck until now. And look, there's a point here that few people mention. This works, but it's not 100% linear. You'll have days when training seems to have no effect at all. You'll have relapses. You'll have moments when attention goes back to autopilot, even after weeks of training. This is normal. It doesn't mean you failed. It means you're training something that's been automatic your whole life, and that takes time to rebuild. Third caution, don't outsource again. You're in control now. You don't need a guru. You don't need a $497 course to learn to breathe for 5 minutes. And if someone shows up selling the definitive activation of attention or the secret method of mental control, you already know what that is. It's the same trap that kept you stuck before. Just change the name of the technique. You don't need an external solution. You need internal training. And nobody can do this for you. So, what do you do now? What's the plan? The plan is simpler than it seems. Today, right now, you choose one of the 3 exercises. Attention on breath for 5 minutes, or pause without screens, or write down and rewrite a thought. 1, just 1. And you do it. Today. Not tomorrow, not when I have time. This week, you repeat it every day, even if imperfect, even if you forget one day and have to restart the next, even if it seems like it's not working. You maintain it, because training doesn't work in 3 days. It works with repetition, and most people quit before the brain starts adjusting. Over the next 30 days, you observe what changes. Don't force results. Don't keep looking for signs that it's working. Just observe. Where is your attention going? What are you noticing that used to pass invisible? How are you interpreting situations? You'll notice small changes. It won't be complete transformation, but you'll start realizing the filter is changing. And long term, this becomes a habit. And when it becomes a habit, you stop thinking about it. You just do it. And then attention control, noise reduction, interpretation change become part of how you operate. And that's when the perception of reality really changes. Not because you activated something hidden, but because you trained something that was always in your control and nobody ever taught you. You don't need more information. You need to start today. Now. 5 minutes. That's what separates who changes from who keeps looking for the next magic button. And if you want to go deeper into this, and if you want to go beyond what this video showed you, if you want to stop being someone who consumes content about manifestation and become someone who actually applies and sees results, the ebook I used takes you exactly to that point. It transforms you from spectator to practitioner, from someone who looks for magic buttons to someone who trains real mental control. Because one thing is understanding that attention constructs perception. Another is having a system that shows you how to unlock the specific mental patterns that keep you financially stuck, and how to rebuild from scratch. I use this. And the difference between before and after wasn't magic. It was identity. I stopped being someone who tried and became someone who trains. The link is in the description and pinned comment. If you identified with what I said so far, take a look. And tell me in the comments, which of the 3 exercises are you going to start today? Attention on breath, pause without screens, or rewriting thoughts? I read all of them and often get video ideas from there, so subscribe too. Because every week I bring content about manifestation with a logical approach, no empty talk. And if you know someone who's tired of looking for secret techniques and wants to understand how this really works, send them this video. Sometimes simple information changes how someone sees their own life. See you in the next one.